Ready for you. All right, I'm recording. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
Why relate to its sheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Tonight we have Eraserhead, wrestling, TV cancellations, and most importantly, stuff. That's Conlon's big get. Stuff. Lots of stuff.
And Frostpunk.
And Frostpunk. Forgot about that. Gonna hear all about that. And more. Or less, depending on what's going on.
And apocalypse nostalgia or fiction.
Oh, what's that?
The stuff you're working on, or stuff, or the idea.
The general apocalypse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the general apocalypse of our lives.
It's my favorite car company.
General apocalypse. The car you need for the end of time.
That's my favorite Marvel villain.
All right, so let's see. What have we done this? You saw? I have not seen Infinity War yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I seen it.
What'd you think? Is it worth going to? I've heard mixed things. Like,
it's a weird fucking movie.
yeah.
It's not like it's unenjoyable. I guess I had just high expectations, because I remember people kept saying, like, in the first 20 minutes, like, you'll be surprised. And then the first 20, I got through, like, maybe, like, 45 minutes of the movie. I was like, when's this surprising thing going to happen?
I'm not yet surprised. I'm vaguely disinterested.
I mean, it's fine. It's just kind of, it does a lot, because there's so many fucking characters, so it's kind of, like, all over the place. But every little compartmentalized thing is done well.
Yeah.
And then, like, there's the big thing at the end that's, like, I guess just weird as shit.
Right.
But I guess the weirdest thing I'd say about it is that really it's not an Avengers movie, it's a Thanos movie.
Okay.
It's almost in some weird way, even though Thanos is evil, he is the hero of this movie.
Right.
Which is weird. And interesting.
Yeah, I've heard he's evil, but not as evil like what you'd think. Like there's a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
But
his reasons for doing it, like, are maybe he's overreaching, or like he just, he's just not very imaginative of solutions. So but he knows this one will work because it works in other places. Like, he's already proven his own theory, basically.
Oh, okay.
So, but, he can't. Yeah, he doesn't trust the world, so he thinks he's going to save it. But yeah,
right.
he's not just like, I want to acquire power and be evil and have fun. Like, no, he's trying to, in his mind, he is trying to save the universe.
Right. So they kill everyone off, and then everyone's coming back in the next one or something.
Kind of. I don't necessarily want to ruin it.
Okay.
Unless you want me to ruin it.
No, you don't have to. I'm sure me and Grayson will get around to it.
Okay.
We usually do. Last night, because I suggested, it's like, well, we can, there's things we can do, and he decided, well, I want to see Johnny Darko. I was like, okay, that's something we can do. He thoroughly enjoyed that. He's definitely on board with that. So.
Yeah, he's right age for that. So.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Now you just need to show him Fight Club.
Yeah, he was watching it. He's like, so what's this, like a story about a school shooter? It's, well, not really. Maybe it's maybe in the 80s, that version of it. But
This is how the school shooter imagines his life is.
yeah, this is kind of like this is the victimization and indifference that a lot of people think is happening, but it's not really happening. Just like it's not happening here in this movie. But yeah, so that was our movie for this weekend, was Donnie Darko.
Did you have the extra special edition?
Oh yeah, I got like the super edition. with
Like, isn't like Kevin Smith on one of the commentaries for that?
Yeah, there's like 12 commentaries, and the big one is Kevin Smith and why am I drawing a blank? Richard Kidd.
Yeah, Richard. I haven't even checked on him in a long time. I don't even know, because he did like that box movie like after Southland Tales like failed, but I don't know what he's doing now at all.
Nothing. I looked. He's on the hit list,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, that was.
He'll have to go to France to direct some movie.
Yeah, well, he's one of those guys that never. I don't think he fits in.
No compromise.
Yeah.
Admirable.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Donnie Darko. Was a great movie. It's one of the greats. Yeah, this isn't coming through at all.
We need to go back and visit Southland Tales. I remember like watching that movie and I was like, I can see why people hate it, but there's some shit here.
Oh yeah, I loved what was it? I loved Donnie Darko, and I like Southland Tales. But then again, I like movies. I don't have to be completely like entertained the whole time where I don't have to think to enjoy something. I like the video montages and the weird characters. All that stuff was cool. The fact they got The Rock and the other guy to be in it was like, that's nuts. But it was not as good as the sum of its parts. It's one of those movies where it's like, yeah, this is nonsense. I enjoyed it, but yeah, we need to watch that again.
Because I just remember that like where Sarah Michelle Gellar was like a porn star, but she's like, but that's not like, what do you call that? That's not, invalidating of her as like a personality to the world. Like that's totally fine. Like she is like, might as well be like on The View or whatever, but she's also a porn star.
Yeah. What she does.
And then like, the weird stuff with like wireless power and shit like that and how that's affecting the universe.
Fluid karma.
The weird like terrorism and stuff like that. And
it's not explained at all. It's just like nuclear weapons went off in Texas, and there's like a family having a barbecue and a mushroom cloud in the distance. Like, okay, where's this going? Oh, nowhere. Okay.
Justin Timberlake, a world-class singer, lip syncing to a Killers song.
Yeah. Yeah, that was odd. Good song.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely one of those movies that was, but for the amount of money that went into it and the hype, it was like, whoa. Oh yeah, this will get you.
Well, yeah, it's people trying.
That was the guy in a wheelchair in that one.
Huh?
Kevin Smith played a part in it.
Yeah, he's like some general in a wheelchair or something like that.
Yeah.
He had like a beard and shit like that, and he was like old.
John Larroquette was in it. He was I forget what he did. He was he played some sleazy guy that was making content.
Oh, is he like some corporation
people? Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of, that was an interesting, we'll have to watch that before you can really get into it.
Yeah.
And there was a whole comic books that went along with it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there was like an ARG and all that shit that went along with it.
And everyone said, "Oh, it makes more sense if you read the comics." And it's like, I'll take your word on that one. Yeah. So anyway, Donnie Darko, good movie for 15-year-olds to watch.
The movie that 9/11 killed as well.
Yeah. Well, it's because Stacy watched it with us, and she was like, "Why did nobody hear about it?" She says, "I thought this was a pretty good movie." She said, "I don't understand why half the stuff's going on." It's like, well, don't feel bad. Nobody does, but She was like, "Why did I never hear of this?" I said, "Because this came out the week after 9/11." Like, yeah, let's go watch some Donnie Darko after this national tragedy. Here's something else you won't understand either. So
Oh, and also there's a whole plane accident in that movie
That's
too.
true.
So
yeah, because I
which he causes, which I never necessarily put that together, but
yeah, well, it's kind of
well,
There's-
you listen to the commentary and he tells you directly. It's like, yeah, Donnie pulled the engine off that airplane
yeah,
and killed himself to recompense the timelines or whatever. Not sure that's the right word. I just like saying recompense.
it's good. It's a good word.
To join together the universes or whatever. But
Yeah.
and you never really got the idea that like, oh, Donnie Darko's is using his psychic powers to realign the universes.
It was
I
never
never
clear.
never got that from it. But then, David Kelly will just tell you that. It's like, oh, okay. All right. So you
Yeah,
guys,
why not?
you guys didn't have money. I get it.
$4.5 million, and
Most of
Yeah,
it,
Patrick
Most of-
Swayze was in this.
yeah. And Drew Barrymore, she like produced the thing.
Yeah, well, her company funded it too.
Yeah.
And then who else was in this? Oh, Noel Wiley.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that were in this. Like the lady that played the
president and
gym teacher.
oh yeah, her. I was thinking of I can't remember her name. She plays the president in Battlestar Galactica.
Oh yeah, the Donnie's mom. Yeah. I can't think of her name. Either. Some Irish sounding name. But yeah. Oh, so we watched that. That's a cool movie for kids.
Cool movie for cool kids.
Oh, Grayson loved. I mean, he still talks about him. He's read all the Southern Reach books now.
Oh, okay.
He reads them at school because he liked Annihilation. He says he never wants to see it again, but he really liked the movie. But yeah, he reads all those books now, so he's getting into some stuff. Took his giant college credit history test this week. It was 4.5 hours. So
But just one test is 4.5 hours.
yeah, it's basically he's knocking out all his college credits for history classes now.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, what are you going to do when you go to college and you want to study history and you've already taken, because I don't think there's any more advanced history classes he can take in high school. And he's in his sophomore year. Like he's run through them.
Yeah.
So, because
Right.
they don't teach a lot of that.
Hey, free credits.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, 190 bucks.
Get your gen eds out of the way. Oh, I mean that is $190. That's yes,
Probably cheap.
that is literally 20 times cheaper than it actually costs to go to college.
Yeah. So he says he thinks he did fine on it. It was mostly essay,
Yeah.
not much multiple choice. And he said that because he's all fired up about, it's like, oh, I know like all the wars from the founding of America to the 20th, to the 20th century. He knows all that stuff like front to back. And it was questions about civil rights movement, the progressive movement of the 70s, women's liberation and stuff. Like that's all the test was about, which he said I did fine on it and I understood what they were asking me and I gave them the right answers. But it was like there was one question about World War I, and I was like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. who's hosting that, U of M or something? It's like, yeah, that doesn't, like there's no history outside of that. So just go through it, smile, take the test, get the credit, move on, get to the next screen. That's what it's all about. Pretend it's important. Because I mean, there's things in history like he's super interested and wants to learn everything he can about it. But I don't know. I'm just glad he's doing it.
Yeah.
I'm just glad school's not a nightmare for him. So I to enjoy being there. I hated every second of it. They told me I had to go back and sit in a classroom and learn stuff. I was like, well, how about a gunshot wound to the head? Would that be an option? I'd much rather be shot in the face than ever set foot in a classroom again.
I mean, you can be a medical cadaver.
Yeah. That's about the only way you get me back in a school. Can I be a teaching cadaver for the...
Nathan donated his body to science.
Yeah. But, yeah, so that's what he did. That was interesting. We'll find out how he did in a few months.
Months?
Yeah, well, they don't. Let's see. When does the school year? I think school ends for him the end of this month.
Yeah.
And then
Mine just ended, but
he takes. Well, then it's all football camps.
oh.
All the football camps that didn't happen in spring, or whatever, they're all being consolidated. I don't know what's going on. I just write checks. It's like, how much? Okay, sure. How many weeks is he gone? So yeah, that's what summer's all football camps now. As soon as school ends, it's football. And then we'll find out. I don't know when that. I think the students grade those over at the college, and then we get the results.
Oh, okay. It's like, why does it take fucking...
Oh, because it's like...
Well, I guess if it's all essay, it's...
Yeah, it's all 20-paragraph essay questions that you gotta read. So... but the XO's like, so what are you gonna do your junior year? What kind of history classes does he have? He says they don't. I said he's like, this is it. You can't do any. I guess I can do government, and there's like AP government, AP civil stuff, and it's like, oh, okay. Like, why don't you just take 3 math classes? It's like, no, so I can fail 3 classes. Yeah.
Do they have any like industrial tech stuff there? Take some welding and shit like that.
I that was my out. I did all that stuff. Like that was, and I wasn't any good at that, but that was like my refuge, was like going out to the, because you could drive out to the other school, what they call it. They used to call it vocational school.
Yeah.
And you could drive out there and work on tractors and weld and shit. Like that's what I really loved, was going to do that. It had no application to anything. It's just like I just want to learn to use torches and work on engines and stuff. But yeah, they don't even do that anymore. They don't even bother.
Really?
Oh, fuck no.
Let's not bother to teach kids really important skills that 80% of them are going to use.
I told him how to change a tire once, and we sat in the garage, and I took parts off the car and showed him like how the engines work, and what I didn't take like major shit off. But and he's just like, wow, I didn't know that's how that worked. You guys aren't curious. I mean, because there's a few of the kids that live on farms that are like hopping up their trucks and putting the, axle raising kits and suspensions on them. But really, that's just not a thing anymore with kids. Everyone wants to stare at a fucking computer screen or something, and that's what they do.
Well, do they have that? Do they have like computer programming classes or anything, or web design, all that shit?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, he likes English a lot too. He likes the novels. Like he said, oh, The Great Gatsby's, that was awesome. It's like, oh, there's lots of books like that. You can take whole courses based on one of those books.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Depends on how deep you want to go. Well, but then it comes back to like, what can you do with all that? What kind of money can you? I say, oh, nothing. Nobody pays for that. The guy who's making a living talking about that's the guy teaching your class.
Was he knocking out a foreign language at least?
Yeah, he's in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he's awake. I don't know what year it's in. He's in Spanish 3, Spanish 2. I don't know, something. He talks to the guys down at the restaurant we go to. They exchange a few words. I don't know what they're saying.
Vamonos.
No, it's all basic stuff. But they'll ask him
fuego.
questions and he'll say stuff back, and then they try to get me on the act, and it's like they'll say something to me in Spanish.
Gringo.
I'll start talking French to him. Pourquoi? I don't understand. Oh. Yeah, I was never.
No, you just need to meet him the other way and start speaking Portuguese.
Yeah. Start rambling in Portuguese. There's so many languages around here that people speak. I mean, you got all the Asian ones, and then just any Russian language. variants of Russian. You hear that all the time. Go to any convenience store. There'll be two guys in the parking lot having a loud conversation in either Russian, Romanian, Serbian, something.
That was a weird thing I learned from my professor this year. He was talking about he worked with some guy who had written a paper that we were analyzing, and he was from Norway, and he said like Norwegians hate it when you call them Scandinavian.
Oh, really? Okay.
So if you want to like refer to like the Scandinavian countries, you refer to them as the Norse countries, like Norse mythology.
Okay. So why do the Norwegians hate that? Do they feel like
I
they're
have no,
oppressed
yeah,
by the other ones, or
probably because isn't Norway the one that's like it's like on the other side of like that sea or whatever?
is Norway the one that's right next to Russia, where they've
Yeah.
tried to invade them like 50,000 times?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
And they have the most deadly sniper in the world was Norwegian.
yeah.
Um,
Was that the
Yeah.
White Death?
yeah, something like that.
The guy who put fucking snow in his mouth so you couldn't see his breath.
Yeah, he was dedicated. Yeah, the Norwegians are not as. They never seemed to be as footloose and fancy free as the other Scandinavian or the Norse countries. I guess I don't know.
Well, see, that's like I'm pretty sure like the Swedish wouldn't give a shit, but it's just Norwegians. They give a fuck if you call them Scandinavian.
I know in Norway you're allowed to piss in public.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, because there's just why build plumbing? You just take a leak somewhere. Like here, if you get caught pissing on the side of your house, you go on the fucking child molesters list as some kind of pervert. It's like I wasn't waving my tallywhacker into traffic. I was taking a leak. But okay.
Well, it's probably good for that giant marine base they have there.
Yeah.
They have
Oh, they
like
still got that there. The
yeah, there's just like giant. There's like a mountain with just nothing but like U.S. tanks inside of it.
oh, is that the Russian insurance policy?
Pretty much, yeah.
Like, yeah, if you shoot at these people, you're shooting America. So, whenever you're ready, I'm surprised Trump hasn't closed that down yet. Terrible waste of money. Got to close that. Got to keep Vladimir happy. Oh, speaking of which, did you hear what happened over Alaska?
No.
We sent the F-22s. There was differing reports. There was the general news, and there's a few websites I go to where you can find out. They very aggressively flew right at a Russian bomber, locked radars on it, and said, "If you come any further into our airspace, we're just going to shoot you down. We're not even fucking around anymore." It wasn't one of those things where we pull up next to you and go like this and it's like, "Go home." Like, no, they're like flipping on radars. I mean, it's a 19.
They have a target lock, sir.
Oh yeah, and again, this is a 1955 era. This is the Tupolev Bear bombers, the one with the contra-rotating props.
Yeah.
It's like on F-22s are flying after that. It's like, oh, they're fucked. As soon as they fire, those things are going to sink like a rock. If the missiles fire, because isn't the F-22 the one that's like they just killed it? Because it's like, how much money is this costing us?
Did they kill that one? Is there a newer one that's even more expensive?
Yeah, the F-35. The Lightning,
yeah.
that's the one. That's the Albatross. That's
Okay.
still going on. The Universal Fighter.
Yeah, because that's the one they're building the helmet for, where you can just see through the plane, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to have a VTOL version and a regular flight version, and the Army and the Navy and the Air Force and everyone's going to use it. And like, yeah, good at everything.
What's our airplane budget? $300 million. How many did two of those cost? $320 million.
We are over budget. And really, the most important question in the world you have to ask yourself is, how many planes do we have that are already way superior than everyone else's? Pretty much every plane currently flying we have is way superior. The training, the equipment is far superior to anyone else's. Who's making next generation stuff that can even come close to either one of these planes? Oh, no one. No one has that kind of fucking money.
Well, Russia can make old stuff that can perform just as well, but
Yeah, well, by itself it can. But yeah, can it shoot down planes, 500 miles away or over the horizon?
Well, that's kind of the boondoggle about these high-end airplanes. Like the way rules of engagement work, you can't shoot at a target you can't see.
Yeah, supposedly.
I mean, that's how it's supposed to work. It's in that Boyd book. It's why he designed or worked together to make the F-16 the way it was, because like the F-16 was a better version of the F-15 Eagle, but it was just like half the price.
It's still one of the best ones in the world.
Yeah. And so basically, like a lot of the things they like cut is like, so you have like that, you know, F-14 Tomcat, where like everyone thought was like a cool fucking plane because it had all that shit on there. It was like it can gauge enemies 10 miles away, it can take on 20 enemies at once, and then like, you know, as you know what do you call those, the swing wings,
Yeah.
and-
Variable geometry fighters.
yeah, and then like so all that shit was cool, but like you look at the repair cost and the durability of it, and it was just like it was just a boondoggle. Because like the first, like, okay, what's the weakest point of the airplane? It's like the part where it's the wings have to switch to 2 different modes. Like that's the weakest part of the airplane. You know,
The main feature of the
the
aircraft.
thing that
is-
keeps the thing in the fucking air.
yeah.
And so like, yeah, so he they dug down and said like, so like you can only like engage enemies that you can see, so that kind of like nullifies the whole like engage enemies at 10 miles thing. That's just something a company that makes missiles and radars tell you to make you spend more money on an airplane.
Yeah.
And then and so like also missiles, like they're only good in certain like windows. It's only good to like fire at the enemy. Like really what you're engaging your enemy is with a machine gun on
Yeah.
the airplane. Like that's what they call like a dogfight. Like that's in dogfighting range, you're not using your missiles to shoot at an enemy, you are using your machine gun. And so thus the most important thing an aircraft needs is the turning ability. So that's why like the F-16, like all of its surface is like basically meant to turn the plane as fast as possible. And so if
Yeah.
you can turn faster than your opponent, then you win. So yeah, all these modern airplanes, like they kind of what this whole thing is like, the design feature stuff is like, oh, it's almost invisible to enemy radar, which yeah, that's a good thing. I don't know about its turning radius. I haven't done all that stuff, but yeah, it does. But they also like want these planes to do multi-role stuff. They want it to be like a Warthog, a fighter plane, a bomber,
Yeah,
and all that
that's
stuff.
the problem. Is they're trying to make these things all. I think the F-22 uses vectored thrust.
Yeah,
That's so that I know those things can probably turn on a dime. I mean, the F-16s at the air show here, they can literally hover. Like they do weird shit where the engine drops to the ground like this, and they just float along the runway, and they do something, and everything it just takes off again. But yeah, these anyway. Yeah, over a lap.
but yeah, like the F-16 is like actually it's like slower than most airplanes, but what it makes up for is its turning radius. So it doesn't really matter how fast you get to the fight. You still need to turn to get behind the guy.
But yeah, that was interesting that they finally started super aggressively engaging the Alaskan airspace shit. Which, you know, I mean, they're putting those out there as big. All the bombers are just big targets, so they know what they're doing. They're not sneaking one in with a 1950s era bomber. But yeah, that was interesting. Those were actually civilian aircraft in Russia at one time too. Those were passenger planes. Yeah, they made same engines, just put a passenger body on it. Well, I mean, a bomber is just a passenger plane. It's just the bays are used for different things.
Yeah, because there's something about those engines that make them last forever. It's like because like the counter rotating props like keep the vibrations down, so it's actually the engine lasts like
No,
forever.
they don't torque. They cancel the torque, the twisting
okay.
out. They're incredibly loud though because the
Yeah.
tips break the sound barrier,
Yeah.
and so they're just like whips, like crack, 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 constantly.
But sonic booms.
Well, they can go. They can go. what did they say about those? They could almost go as fast as a Stratofortress
Yeah.
because those engines could just twist them through the air. And Stratofortress was all jets. It was all fuel tanks, fuel tanks and bomb bays. Because I think how many engines that thing have? 8. I'm trying to think.
It's because like 2 per each pylon, and there's 2 pylons each side, right?
I think there's 2 pylons. So yeah, it'd be 8. Again, just a big target 5 years after it was made.
That's like the C-130. Like they keep trying to replace that, but the C-130 just ends up being like the cheapest solution.
Yeah, it lasts forever. I mean, those came out in 57.
Yeah.
They're still using. And they can take off on like gravel roads, and you can land them on gravel roads and shit.
Yeah.
They're perfect for everything. Except, what do they not do well? I don't know. They had a lot of problems with
Well, they're
them.
just cargo planes.
Yeah, well, they were doing weird shit like putting what was Desert One gonna do to rescue the hostage? Oh, they put J towels on it backwards. Essentially, it's like it's not how quick we can get it up in the air. It's how can we make it stop, and it just ripped the wings off because it wasn't designed to take that kind of stress.
Well, yeah, they had that one. I think it's like a Blue Angels version of it or whatever, where it has like rockets on the side to
Fat Albert.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are made. Those will help it to take off very quickly, but they tried to reverse those, and because they had to land in a very short. I don't know what their thinking was with the Iranian hostage rescue, but I know it was a disaster. It just killed a bunch of guys. But yeah, that's interesting stuff. We'll have to see what happens. More World War III is. What did the Bureau of Atomic Scientists? Aren't we closer to Armageddon than we ever have been consistently?
I don't know the measures by which you're.
Well, remember, the doomsday clock is how many minutes till midnight?
Yeah.
Let me check this out to be sure. Because I know, I mean, of course, as soon as Trump got elected president, they moved it to
6 minutes to midnight.
I think it's even closer than that.
Is that an actual 6 minutes?
Bulletin of the Atomic Science. Oh, we're at 2 minutes to midnight right now.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of how close. Well, your website sucks, guys. Oh, what's the? In 2010, it was 6 minutes to midnight. In 1991, it was 17 minutes to midnight. And let's see, when was it? In 1953, it was 2 minutes to midnight. So, like the height of the Cold War. So, yeah, now we're 2 minutes to midnight. But I've heard different things about that, too. A lot of people's, because it says it's the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, so you think, oh, shit, these are scientists, but it's become really politicized over the years. So they're just essentially a bunch of leftists who just don't like Donald Trump. And now we're 2 minutes to midnight.
But what about peace in Korea?
Yeah. What about that? Was that supposed to? Is that happening this week? Where they talk?
No, it's in summer.
Oh, the summer. Okay.
It's I think in June. They're looking for fucking what's that country? I can't remember the name of the country.
What do?
No, it's a peace talks in a different country that's near.
Oh, Malaysia or something?
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember.
Myanmar?
Singapore?
That could be.
Yeah, I think Singapore.
I don't know.
Singapore a country or is that a city? I just suddenly forgot.
It's a city-state.
Okay, both. Okay, we're good.
It's ruled by a satrap and co-governed by a satrapy. No, those are the old, what were those? Byzantine empires had those. Really elaborate leadership structures. That's how you know your country's dying, when you create this, insanely complex leadership structures. Like, oh, you don't just have a king anymore. You've got like Oh, we have a council of elders, and they are the rotating presidency. Everyone gets 1 month to make a decision. It's like, okay, we're doomed, right? This is right before the fall of Rome.
It's a council of elders. Like, what is a fucking Lord of the Ring novel?
What was the? Who were the people in Battlestar? Was it the Quorum of the 12 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's going to be effective. That's why the Cylons won. Shitty leadership. Well, in the new one, it was because everyone was corrupt, but which, yeah, probably truer than what we know. But, what the hell were we going to talk about?
Well, I got Frostpunk and too much wrestling.
Okay, let's talk about Frostpunk.
All right, Frostpunk is a new game by I can't remember their name.
Okay,
So
sure, appreciate the plug.
yeah, as long as you get the name, you can't forget Frostpunk,
That's a standout name.
which is basically steampunk, but
Yeah.
with frost. Because it's like a late 1800s, so like industrialized era London, but like with like automatons and shit like that. So the steampunk aesthetic.
Okay.
But there's like a new ice age, or at least some part in the game. I think someone says like a bunch of volcanoes went off in the south, so it's basically like a nuclear winter, but with volcanoes rather than nuclear arms.
Okay.
So people set off from London to and head somewhere. I'm not really exactly sure where they head, but they are trying to survive. And they end up stopping in this place, and they just have a giant furnace that they keep going with coal, and then that like heats the town.
Okay.
And so you would then have to like construct the town to keep people alive. So you need to like gather food. You need to collect wood and coal to power things and build things, and also steel. You also get to make decrees, where you like make new laws, which will give you access. And it's kind of an either or thing. Like there's kind of two options for each decision, and like you have to kind of weigh the costs and benefits of each one. So that's kind of like the where like the rub is. So if you want more labor, guess what? You can enact child labor.
Okay. Century.
The first thing I did, because I thought I was going to suck at the game, was like I immediately enacted cemeteries. I was like, oh, people are going to die left and right. We're going to need cemeteries, because there's a lot of things you have to balance. So like the first thing you have to balance is just like heat. You have to make sure that people are have heat so they can live, and you build around the heater. And so like there's kind of like the more levels you get out, the less heat it expands. So you have to like upgrade your heater too and stuff like that. But there's a difference between like the heat, because usually you build the homes near the heater so that they're livable, and
Right.
but the work is generally on the outside, so people are more likely to get sick when they're not in heated areas. So that's in their work areas. So you can like later on upgrade to have like heaters in the work areas. And then you have hope and discontent. Those are the two like levels you have to maintain. So if you have high hope, then it really doesn't matter how much like discontent there is. So it's like okay, but like if they're reversed, then you might have like a revolt, and they might like kick you out of being the captain of the colony or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Because
This looks pretty cool.
I found an automaton. It's just this weird walking clock monster thing that collects coal for you all night. Because you can also enact a 24-hour workday if you need it for emergencies.
Well, that's fun for everyone.
But I have it so there's a normal day, like it starts at 8 a.m. and then it goes for 10 hours, so it's a 10-hour workday. So like after that, like nobody's gathering more coal or wood or anything like that, but you might not have enough coal to last the whole night or stuff like that. But I found this automaton, and it can work all day. It doesn't matter. So it collects coal at night, so everybody stays warm.
I like these little updates that come up. A child injured in work accident. How should we change the labor laws?
Yeah, see, I went. I went the other way. I didn't enact child labor. I went the other way, and I enacted. We had like special. It was like basically like child care centers. So like while people were at work, their children were being taken care of, and they had a place to live and stuff like that. So then people were happy because of that. But then like you don't have your workforce is smaller now.
Yeah.
But people are happy about that, so that was fine. But then later on, what you can do is because you did that, you can then have the children like start to like work alongside people to like gain knowledge of what they're doing, so like medical stuff or scientist stuff. So then you'll have more like engineers later on because they're being taught things, but it also like helps with the workflow. So it's kind of like you're not just sending children to work, you're sending them to learn, but they're also working. So like it works out more in your benefit for that. Also,
Like apprentices more than
yeah.
Okay.
Because there's two different kinds of workforces. There's just workers, that people just do stuff, and then you have engineers, which are like. See, and so you have to balance it correctly because there's only so many people you can have in a work area. But if it's like all engineers, then like no work's getting done. But if it's all workers, then the smaller percentage of the work is getting done. So you have to balance it so to ensure that like 100% of the work is getting done.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I was doing really good. Like, had a really high hope. Discontent was low. I was like, I had a couple of scouting units going out looking for stuff. And and then all of a sudden we like one of the objectives was like to find another city, and we found another city, and everyone was fucking dead. Like they all died of starvation or frostbite and all that shit. So then like I lost like all my hope. They lost all hope and decided that somebody started a group that like we need to go back to London. And so that's where I am right now is I have to like stop the people from revolting and wanting to go to London. Which has become very complicated. Because my hope is basically all the way down, my discontent's like middle of the way, and then I opened up a new skill tree, which I could either use faith or order, and I chose order. So I have like more cops and stuff in the area. They're like keeping things in order, but that like creates other problems too. But so, it's a pretty interesting game. I think you might like it. There are different scenarios, so it's not necessarily like a play forever game. The main scenario I think is just like survive, but then there's like other scenarios, kind of like the whole like Londoner situation where you have to like try to quell a rebellion or other stuff like that.
Oh, that looks kind of cool.
Yeah, and it has that steampunk aesthetic, and then some people are kind of compare it to Snowpiercer, which I guess I could kind of see that.
Yeah.
It's like a Snowpiercer where just a giant furnace in the middle of the city.
It's a neat idea. Like I said, it looks cool.
The game they did before this is called This War of Mine, which is also kind of dour.
But the one set in the Serbian War?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like that was another where like you had a base and you had to take chances of like leaving your house to go collect things in the war zone and coming back, and then like you had to set up your base to like for traps because like people while you're out trying to loot other places, people might be trying to loot you.
Oh, okay. I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah.
All right. So, tell me about wrestling.
What do you want to know about wrestling?
You've been watching a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah, probably shouldn't have. But, the Giant Bomb guys were getting excited for wrestling again. And pretty much my levels for wrestling just mirror theirs. Like, oh, are they excited about it? Is it good again? All right, I guess I'll stay. I guess I'll check in. So they had WrestleMania, which is their big show. So I went and got
the one they had in Dubai or whatever?
No, that's later. I'll talk about that too.
Okay.
They just had their WrestleMania. It was fine. It was mostly boring. There's a couple of matches that should have been exciting and weren't, and then the last match was a total shit show. to the point that it was the end of the show, which the show was like 7 hours.
Wow. Aren't
That's
those
it.
like $80 pay-per-views though?
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
$9.99 with the WWE Network.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're still like $80 though. You can still get that on pay-per-view for $80, which is mind-boggling.
Yes.
Yeah, because those are the big shows. They always cost more than the other pay-per-views.
Right.
But yeah, there's like a 2-hour pre-show, and then there's like 5 hours of wrestling beyond that. But it was in New Orleans, and it's usually a good time there. So like, I guess it looked good. I'm trying to remember what the fuck happened. But yeah. So at the final match, it was so bad that people were just chanting, "This is awful."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who was fighting and what for?
Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns.
Okay.
Two guys you're not gonna know. You might know Brock Lesnar because he
He's
is
an MMA fighter, right?
UFC. Yeah, well, yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, was the current UFC heavyweight champion.
Right.
Like he won it like a couple of years ago, but then he got busted for drugs and so,
Right. I knew there was something. Yeah.
But so Brock Lesnar does this as well, but the way he has his contract is that he basically has to wrestle like 4 times a year at like a pay-per-view, so he never has to show up for anything.
Okay.
So
That big multi-million-dollar payday, huh?
yeah.
No.
Um,
Maybe not anymore. Not if this is awful.
I don't know. He's got his money. He doesn't give a shit.
Right.
But he's been the. I'm not sure what belt it is. There's 2 different shows, and they're kind of separate now. There's Raw and SmackDown.
Okay.
So they're kind of like set. So they have 2 separate kind of. They're almost like 2 different divisions. It's like the East Coast, West Coast kind of thing.
Okay.
So one is the WWE Championship, and the other one is like the WWE Universal Championship, which they might as well be the same belt. So for Raw, Brock Lesnar is the WWE Champion, and he's basically never there. So there's basically a belt that nobody gets to fight over because they have to wait till a pay-per-view comes up till somebody fights over it.
Right.
So Roman Reigns has been fighting for this belt for like 2 years or some shit like that. He actually like 3 years ago, he actually beat Brock Lesnar for the belt.
Uh-huh.
But then that was a fun little twist they had. Okay, so I'm going to have to explain other shit now.
Okay.
So there's a pay-per-view called Money in the Bank. Have you ever heard of that one?
No.
Okay. So what it is, the special one with that is that it's a ladder match. There's like 6 guys. There's a suitcase suspended from the ceiling, and the guys have to beat each other up until somebody can climb the ladder and grab the suitcase.
Oh, I thought you meant it was a ranking system. There's actually a ladder.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And whoever gets the suitcase, inside is a contract to at any time you can cash it in to fight the current champion.
Okay.
So, like at this pay-per-view, no, it was WrestleMania. At this WrestleMania, it was a long, drawn-out fight, and Roman Reigns, basically like falls on Brock Lesnar, like basically almost unconscious himself, and wins the belt.
Okay.
So then he's champion, and then immediately Seth Rollins, who now I have to go into 100 other things. So Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and a guy named Dean Ambrose came into the WWE as a group called The Shield. And then they broke up, and then Seth Rollins is kind of like, now they're all enemies. So Seth Rollins won the Money in the Bank, cashes it in right at the end of WrestleMania, knocks out Roman Reigns, and then he's the champion. So, which is fun because the thing is, like Vince McMahon really wants Roman Reigns to be like the face of the company, but the fans don't want it.
Huh.
And it's not really like that he's bad. It's just like he kind of got pushed too far too fast, and he's not really like the greatest kind of like talker.
Okay.
Like, he looks good, he wrestles totally fine, but he's not necessarily there's not really a reason to like the guy necessarily.
Okay.
So to get to this WrestleMania, since again the fans don't really like it, it's like a half an hour fight where they beat the shit out of each other, or really Roman Reigns just gets the shit beat out of him, and then the match is over and Roman Reigns loses again, and it's almost like, why did we have this match?
Yeah.
And then Brock Lesnar walks away with millions of dollars to go do nothing for 3 months. Let's see what else happened at WrestleMania. Nia Jax won the women's title.
Oh, they got a women's title now?
Oh yeah, that's like a whole new thing now. So it's like the women's division is like, well, it's not really a division, but like, well, I guess it's a division. It's like huge now. Like they actually have like legitimate talent, and they aren't just treated like strippers. Like they're treated like legitimate talent now, which is good to see.
Well, this Nia Jax looks scary.
Yeah, she's like 6 feet tall, 300 pounds.
That woman would beat the shit out of you. Holy crap.
Yeah, she's fighting. She's basically fighting a cheerleader.
Okay.
So they finally gave her a title, which makes sense because she can beat the shit out of anybody there.
Yeah. 90-pound cheerleader.
And the crowd was chanting, you deserve it, because she actually did, because she's been pretty good at what she does. But now they hate her because now she has to go out there and talk, and she's not really the greatest talker. So.
Oh, okay.
They already turn on her. Yeah, she also has like a weird face because like she doesn't. If you just see her face, she doesn't look like a big woman.
Yeah.
So she has like one of those unfortunate faces where like people have no problem telling how beautiful she is if she just loses the weight.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to hear that one.
Fuck, what else happened there? There's like I'll have to look at the card at some point. But yeah, some other shit. Oh yeah, John Cena got destroyed by the Undertaker. That was kind of funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Isn't John Cena getting out of that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So like WrestleMania is like a big thing for the Undertaker because like he, for like 22 years in a row, he won every match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And then they finally had Brock Lesnar in the streak, as they call it.
Oh, I see.
But now he's keep coming back. Anyways, yeah, it was weird. So they didn't know if the Undertaker or they didn't. There was no like planned Undertaker match, but you knew that there was one coming. And then like John Cena kept calling out the Undertaker, but they never there was never like a rebuttal or anything. So they just set up the match, and then eventually the Undertaker. Some guy named Elias comes out. He's kind of a fun douchebag. He just walks out on the stage into darkness and plays a guitar, and then basically says how he's the greatest person in the world, and whatever town he is complete shit. So he does a good job at it.
Yeah.
So eventually the Undertaker comes out, and then the Undertaker just destroys John Cena. Does all his like signature moves in like 10 minutes, and the match is over. Which I guess was funny. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're getting to so like a week later, they have another pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia called The Greatest Royal Rumble.
Okay.
Which was fucking weird, a total shit show. But the only thing I heard is apparently they got paid $200 million to put on the show. So.
Oh, okay.
It was like by some like Saudi Arabia. It was like some prince, but also was part of their kind of advertising for like vacationing to Saudi Arabia and stuff like that. Like it was a part of that. Like you put on a good hey, look at Saudi Arabia. But because it was Saudi Arabia, guess who couldn't wrestle?
Nia Jax.
All the women could not wrestle there.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah, that always helps their image.
Well, apparently the guy who was putting it on, he wanted like the Ultimate Warrior and like some other guy who's dead to like come out to the show. It's like, oh, he's just not aware, huh?
So could you bring the Ultimate Warrior and so is it Roddy Piper? It's like that would take a lot of money, probably technology we don't have yet. But hey, we won't stop looking for answers until you run out of money.
So yeah, it was pretty much a total shit show. They had a rematch for Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns in a cage.
Okay.
The rules of the cage matches is like the first person to touch the ground outside the cage wins the match.
Okay.
And so Brock Lesnar won that match again.
Huh.
So it's like
I'm on the website while you're talking. So I'm trying to keep up so you don't have to do so much explaining.
Yeah.
But I'm like completely lost, so I gave up.
So like the big event they had there is they had a 50-man Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
Which usually it's like 30 or 40 guys.
Yeah.
So they're really pushing it here. But like guys came out of nowhere. Like it's like I haven't heard of that guy for like 10 years, and suddenly he's back. Which they kind of do that at Royal Rumble. So there's two different kinds. Like you have a Battle Royale and you have a Royal Rumble. Battle Royale is you have like 20 to 30 guys. They just start in the ring and they have to like throw each other over the rope.
Okay.
Because that's how you're eliminated, is if you get thrown over the rope. So
okay, that's right. I remember that. I knew there was some kind of sudden death elimination.
But there's weird rules to it where like if you just like baseball slide underneath the bottom rope and just like go to sleep on the outside, like you're perfectly legal.
Slide under and fall asleep, huh? The old slide and sleep game.
Which I think is like literally happened at some point where like a guy went underneath the bottom rope, like, and then like rolled underneath the mat and just hung out there till the end of the match and then popped out. It's like, I'm still a legal guy.
Who's the sanctioning body of this?
Yeah, all the weird fake rules to wrestling.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's just a story.
Well, like one thing. Well, like there's one thing. Well, I never knew this before, but like you ever see like wrestling when like one guy has another guy in the corner and he's just like punching him for like like half a minute.
Yeah.
And he like if you watch like the referee will be counting, he'll be like 1, 2, because apparently a rule is like you can't like pummel a guy in the corner for like more than 5 seconds.
Okay.
So they'll just like stop and then like yell at the refs like, "What? I'm not doing anything," and then they'll just pummel him for another 5 seconds.
Or someone will come up behind the ref and put their bra over him, or yeah all that stuff.
But yeah, it's just like a weird like I never knew that was like a fake rule. Like I've never seen anybody like, oh, they did it for 6 seconds, now they're eliminated. Like I've never seen that happen. So it's just like a weird. It's just like a weird pacing thing I think they do.
Right. Yeah.
Because one thing I also didn't know is like while watching that Andre the Giant documentary, is like how integral the ref is in like the whole match.
Okay.
Because not only like usually the guy who's like the oldest, like he's running the match, like they'll tell they'll kind of direct it, but also the ref is there to do that too. So the ref is actually like kind of and then if something goes wrong, the ref will be there to kind of like quickly like either tap out something or just like disqualify the match, either pretend or for real.
Yeah, depending on what's going on.
Well, apparently, I think they call it the double X's. If the guy crosses his arm like that, that usually means that's a real injury and that this whole thing is over right now. Which I think they've also used that because people know that to be a thing, so then they use it to fake something too.
Right. Yeah. It's always good to have your safe word become part of the melange of plot. It's like, what could go wrong with that? Well, these guys can get killed doing this stuff.
So Battle Royale, they all in the ring at once. Battle Royale. So a Royal Rumble, what's different about that is that, like the match starts with one guy runs into the ring, and then like a minute and a half later, another guy enters. So it's just like a minute and a half each keeps going by, and the new guys keep getting put into the match.
Okay.
So that's how that works. Yeah, it was mostly just a shit show. A lot of like people you don't know entering the ring, getting thrown out of the ring, and then because it was lasted so long, it was just a lot of people kind of like
everyone gets to stand on stage for 10 seconds.
Well, also when you have that many people in the ring, like you can't really do anything cool because there's no room to do it without
Yeah,
like
you throw some guy off the turnbuckle and kilt.
And that's what, and then also, but then you got some people. Was it the Great Khali showed up? Who, like, he's like on their roster for like special occasions, basically because he's like the biggest or like the most notable wrestler from India. So they're basically like, oh, that's just a built-in crowd. We just get him in, and it is so uncomfortable to watch that man.
Why is he just so big? Or
He is so tall and then lumbering, and it's like he clearly can barely stand. So he
what's
comes
it called again? The Great
Khali.
I gotta see this guy.
And his move is just a chop, and he just like chops at people's necks, and then they go down. So he got in there, he chopped 3 people down, and they all got together and threw him out of the ring. And it was like all happened in about a minute, but it took him like 5 minutes to walk to the ring.
That's a big dude. He's from India?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I guess he kind of does look. I just never associate Indian people being that big.
And then Rey Mysterio showed up, which he hasn't been anywhere for like years. But he, showed his age. But what are you gonna do? The guy's like almost like 50, so.
Yeah.
And then there was a guy kind of like called Baron Corbin. He showed up, and like he's kind of he's just like a big tall guy. He's like 6'7", weighs like 300 pounds, but doesn't really look that big. But I guess he used to be a lineman, he used to be an offensive lineman in the NFL.
Oh, okay.
He has a great, just shitty teenager, but if he was an adult kind of like personality, that's his character. He's basically if you were a goth and barely grew out of it. But he has like some really cool moves. He has a move called the Deep Six, where he kind of like just picks up a guy, spins them around in a circle, and slams on their back. But he's like yelling the whole time he does it, so it's kind of a kind of an interesting move. And then he has a move called End of Days, which you'll have to just like look it up. He has a couple of good moves that he does. So I was like, this guy's kind of awesome. Like, why isn't he getting? Is he like secretly an asshole? And like, apparently he is. So,
Now, which one's this?
Baron Corbin.
Oh, okay. I was looking up Mysterio.
Oh, Rey Mysterio. Okay. Well, because I was like, why isn't? I was looking up stuff because I was watching. It was like, why isn't this guy a bigger thing? And apparently it was. They were in a meeting and they were talking about concussions, and apparently he like scoffed it off.
Yeah.
Like, it's stupid. So the company who's like kind of really sensitive to that stuff now, not necessarily that they really care about people. You just know any day now a class action lawsuit's going to come down on them about concussions.
Yeah, they're just waiting for the other shooter.
So they want to have a history of them being really serious about that stuff. So apparently they just like, so he like won the Money in the Bank match like a couple years ago, and then when he went to cash it in, he lost the championship because people were wanting to basically wanted to teach him a lesson for like scoffing about like concussions.
Oh, okay.
So now he's like on their shit list. So it's like, oh, that's why he's not.
That's where he pissed them off.
Yeah. And he's like my age too, so I thought that was weird. It's like that's a weird thing about wrestling is like really people don't make it till they're like their mid-30s to like near 40 years old. There's not really like young wrestlers, and when you see young wrestlers, you're like, oh yeah, they suck at this right now, but there's potential there.
Yeah.
And then 10 years later, oh, the potential kicked in. It's a weird thing. And then Kevin Owens showed up, another guy you wouldn't know, but he's real interesting. He's from Canada, from Montreal, some small place, he's not from Montreal. It's Quebec. So he's in a small city in Quebec, right? Quebec is like the province or whatever, and then Montreal is in Quebec.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Got that right. So he's a guy. He's like I think he's like my height. He's like 5'11". He's like 260 pounds. He looks like a big fat guy, but he's like super athletic. And
Yeah.
it's like crazy to watch. And he's also just a really good shit talker.
Yeah. Well, you got to have that.
Which is funny because he's Canadian. It's great that he's like just great at being a fucking piece of shit. That's really like one of his first when he got to the WWE. His first feud is because that was around the time where like people were hating or like the old adult fans of wrestling hate John Cena, but the kids love him.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of times a lot of times the adult people will boo John Cena, and then like the kids will like praise him or whatever. So like when Kevin Owens first came in, he was feuding with John Cena. It was basically he was just saying all the same shit that the adult fans of wrestling were saying about John Cena. It was great because it just seemed like he was going up there and just saying what was on his mind. Yeah, he's a good wrestler.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, then eventually, so you have the greatest Royal Rumble. Eventually, it's just a lumbering mess with occasional moments, and then eventually Braun Strowman wins. He is a giant man.
Huh.
Who looks
All this stuff.
like they're getting ready to give him the championship, which would make sense.
Yeah.
I think they'll have him. This is the real wrestling stuff. We speculate what they're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like it would make sense for him to beat Brock Lesnar because they're both giant men. So
Yeah.
if somebody's going to beat Brock Lesnar, it's going to be another giant man. So yeah, that's too much wrestling.
Okay.
And
Well,
I even watched the other stuff. So there's more shit. There's more wrestling. I watched like the Raw and SmackDown. They all sucked.
Okay.
I've been watching some NXT, which that's interesting. That is WWE's developmental league.
Okay. Like their farm team or whatever?
Yes.
Okay.
It takes place. It's in Florida. But it's like it's all centralized in one location. Like they have like test areas. Like they have like rings that are just like made of like a bunch of foam, so that they can like do all crazy shit and not get hurt. And so like yeah, and then so like the crowds are they have like a ring area set up, and like the crowds are smaller, but it's like mostly a local crowd, so a lot of people are there. But also because everybody knows like all these people are learning, they're not there yet. You give a lot of leeway. So even though like some of it's terrible, like some of it's great, and some of it's good to see like people like, oh, they're getting better. Like that's kind of the interesting thing about NXT is they can see people get better. Whereas when it's WWE, it's supposed to be like, okay, everything's supposed to work here, like everything's supposed to be good, but it's all fucking terrible, and you don't give them any leniency whatsoever. And then I was checking out some other like crazy, because I was looking up Kevin Owens, like what did he do before, and he was in some promotion, I think it's out of Chicago, called Ring of Honor.
Okay.
So I was looking at some of the crazy shit from there, where like have where they're like standing on 4 ladders and throwing each other into another ladder.
Wow.
Yeah, one of those crazy ones. Yeah, so there's just wrestling everywhere still. So, but yeah, that's definitely too much wrestling.
All right. And then we have some TV cancellations.
Oh yeah. So a couple shows. Yeah, so Brooklyn Nine-Nine got canceled.
Oh, okay. That's the comedy, right?
Yeah, it's one of the Andy Samberg, which I've been meaning to watch, which I guess like kind of too late. But luckily enough, 2 days later, NBC picked it up for its 6th season. So.
Oh, okay. So it's just changing networks.
Yeah, so that's good there. Last Man on Earth got canceled, which I sad because I kind of wanted to see that reach a conclusion because I was the interesting thing about Last Man on Earth was, well, one, it's comedy, but kind of has that same thing about Walking Dead, where it's like where usually those scenarios, like it's like a one movie shot and you never see like something like go through an evolution and reach a conclusion.
Right.
So again, we're not going to reach a conclusion.
Took too long.
Yeah. And like, there's not really much hope for that one because I guess Brooklyn Nine-Nine's produced by someone else, so that one was easier to shop around. Whereas with Last Man on Earth, I don't think there's really a production company to shop it around. I think Fox made it, and it's kind of up to them.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Fox also canceled The Mick, which I know nothing about, other than I think it's some people from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is in that.
Okay.
AP Bio got a season 2, so that's good.
Oh, did it? Okay. Yeah, that was kind of funny. I sort of tapped out halfway through that one.
Yeah.
No reason why. I just, yeah.
The big sad one, though, is they canceled The Expanse.
Is there a reason why?
Ratings.
No, it just fell off.
Well, so there's a little hope for this one.
Okay.
Because the production company that like owns the rights to it, like, apparently they have a pretty firm grip on that intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
So Sci-Fi is basically just a conduit to pay for the show and put it on the air. Apparently they didn't have any kind of like streaming. Sci-Fi didn't get any of the streaming stuff or things out of it.
Oh, okay.
So like it's not really all they have to do is find another company like willing to produce the show, and they're good. They can take it anywhere. There's no holdups with Sci-Fi.
Okay.
But unfortunately, it's a really fucking expensive show, so I don't know if that'll happen.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Netflix has the money, but they also have been spending a lot of fucking money, and I don't know if they want another like high expensive Sci-Fi show. And then I don't know who else would like. I mean, they already just like say fuck it. They have like, you know, they swear all they want, because I just buy the seasons off of Amazon. And so there's no like, so people just say fuck all the time now. They don't even care. Like, I don't know how it's broadcast. I think they just like they either like just take the sound out or bleep it. I think they just take the sound out or whatever.
Okay.
So it already seems like it's like ready for HBO. But I don't think HBO would be willing to pay for that, because if it already proved not really have great ratings, I don't know what HBO would do for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just, all I wanted them to get was to Abaddon's Gate. This all they had to do was get to that book. They couldn't fucking do it.
No.
Those are the big ones. There's been like a couple more cancellations and stuff. Like that Lucifer show got canceled, but I never watched one of that. So
yeah, never seen that.
A bunch of other shows got canceled. It was but yeah, those are the most noble ones.
Designated Survivor got canceled.
Oh yeah, that's only got 2 seasons, right? I thought people liked that.
3.
Okay.
I think they did, but it's like a lot of those shows with characters and stories like that. You just keep upping the game.
Yeah.
Every season. It's like, how can we make it crazier and inversely more expensive? Marvel's Inhumans.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense to me because the trailer for that was fucking awful. And then I think I saw like 5 minutes of it once, and it didn't really seem to grab me at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, like shows get canceled all the time, but this seemed like a big list of like, oh, I know that show. I think that's a good show, or I just know it's a good show. Like, why did it get canceled?
Yeah.
But at least Brooklyn Nine-Nine didn't get canceled yet. NBC is going to get to drop the hammer on that. Also, Rick and Morty got a 70-episode pickup.
That's pretty good. That's money in the bank.
Which I remember there's been weird stories about the turmoil over there where like, oh, there's never going to be another Rick and Morty again because like the 2 main guys don't like working with each other, or there's some weird shit with Adult Swim, and then all of a sudden like 70 episodes guaranteed. Well, sort of.
Yeah, I imagine those Rick and Morty guys are odd ducks.
But that's like, 7 or 6 more seasons, so that's fucking weird.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I wonder if they're gonna get that like Venture Brothers deal, where at some point it's like, hey, you want to make a season? Like you can make a season every 3 years. Because technically, Venture Brothers is still a in production show, and the last 6 years there's been 2 seasons.
They're on the BBC production schedule.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, this is 10 seasons. So take 5 years off between every season to do something.
But also, The Expanse has been really good this year, so that's been.
I'm gonna try to catch up this week. I have time.
What did you have? You caught Westworld?
Yeah, I've seen. Oh, I'm saw the first 2.
Okay, so you should still be disappointed by now, right?
I don't know if I'm disappointed. I always like the slow burn of that show. This might be testing my patience, but it was still interesting, but like for some reason I'm forgetting the character's name. What's Bernard?
Dolores? Is it Dolores?
Oh, Dolores, yeah.
I just don't give a fuck about Dolores.
It's hard to care about Dolores.
Bernard's interesting, like where he has to fucking like put some brain juice in his brain, like that. So
Keep him going.
the weird split timeline stuff, kind of seem like I don't know. It just seems like they're copying what worked last year,
Yeah.
but like last year you didn't necessarily know it was a split timeline unless you were looking for it. Or
One of the problems with Westworld was their genius level fan base. That was because I'm not reading anything on the internet about Westworld right now. I'm just watching it.
Yeah.
Because like you go to those Reddit boards, it's like somebody mapped out the whole fucking show last year. It's like, oh, they were pretty much 75% accurate on everything they predicted.
Yeah, there's some people that was like, oh, it was so obvious, and like I was just kind of along for the ride, so I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, I didn't necessarily feel stupid or anything. It's like, oh, okay, that's cool. But yeah, so far this season, it's like just, I don't know, it's kind of dragging. It seems like it's not going anywhere, and they keep promising like big reveals that aren't going to be that big.
Yeah.
Because there seems to be this weird thing with like, oh, the thing with the, what do they call them? Not the guests. What are they called?
The hosts?
The hosts is like this idea of like that's real immortality. Is the hosts are like the evolution of humanity or something.
Oh yeah, well you can tell that's what they're edging towards. That's what I get out of it is because like, oh, why are you storing all their memories and what are you doing? Because guys like Delos that are dying, it's like, well, if you can put my memories into a host, then I can keep living through something like that can be repaired. And
yeah,
like, oh, so this is really what the whole purpose of this amusement park was to create human immortality. That's what I'm getting out of it.
Yeah, but there's also like the thing where yeah, she keeps saying like you don't know what the real purpose of the park is, and there's that part where he's talking with like that, you know, where it goes back in time and like he's talking with like the one stepdad.
Yeah.
And basically it was saying like, no, what we use this park for is not for entertainment. It's for like espionage on other companies and stuff. So we can see how like people really react. So then we can like counteract to once we know their profile of like, you know, how they act at things, how they really think. Then it just seemed like some corporate espionage rather than like entertainment. It's like, so. And then that you add on this idea of like it's not only goes at corporate espionage, it's an immortality machine.
Yeah. Yeah, I always figured it was something. It didn't surprise me when they started going down that road.
Well, didn't you say something like, or there's stuff in there intimating that like humans are just bored now because they're almost immortal. Like the medicine's so good that they can be kept. That people live really long now, but apparently just not long enough.
Yeah, it's something like that. And you never know what the state of the greater society is. You know what the people at the top are doing. They're going to Westworld. But you don't know like what the rest of the world's like or even what planet they're on or what's going on.
Well, I'm pretty sure. Well, yeah, I guess we couldn't. I was thinking it was just Earth, but then there was like that, like those, there was like those Chinese military guys who seemed to be like the Chinese leased this island to Westworld and now they're angry because some shit's going down, but they won't let the Chinese military on the island.
Yeah, sign the paper and fuck off or something. It's like telling the guy to leave. Yeah.
And then you have this other, and then Tessa Tessa Thompson, I think that's her name. No,
Yeah,
Tessa.
no.
Tessa. She was in.
Yeah. Fuck, I know her from other things.
Yeah, she was in the Thor 3 movie.
Yeah.
And she was also Annihilation. Anyways, yeah,
Yeah.
like she's like some rogue corporation that's trying to steal all this shit, but then she knows like secret locations that have those weird like white guys.
The
like-
drones.
Yeah,
The just the musculature with no skin and no face.
yeah,
That's kind of creepy.
yeah. And I like those parts. Like when if this season was in more of those rooms, I think I'd be more interested. But every time they go back to Westworld, I'm not that interested.
Well,
Also,
yeah.
it seems they kind of like walk back some things because I thought after like you have this revelation of was it Wyatt or whatever
Mhm.
she is also named, whatever Dolores is also. It's like I thought like oh then every host is now just going to be like have this revelation, but then they kind of walk this back for this season where it's like oh it's just her and like people she told, and then like all those machines they like pulled all the old hosts they pulled out of the machine to like fight this war for him or whatever.
Right.
But all the other guys are like still going on their routines, and like I guess the interesting thing about that is like they've finished their routines, but they're not really supposed to, so now they don't know what they're to do with themselves, which I guess is kind of interesting, but also like weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of the stuff with Dolores and some of the other characters is like, oh, you've got a lot of this fortune cookie Jedi logic. You're talking and you're kind of reenacting the Russian Revolution, sort of, but not everyone. Well, so it's like I'm happy being a servant. I don't want to have responsibility, and so you're doing a lot. They're moving over ground that's kind of well trod, which sort of surprises me. But yeah, I mean it's not all bad.
Well, yeah,
Still
but
better than 90% of the shit on TV. So
I kind of figured if they got fucking 2 years to work on this, it'd be better.
yeah, there's so many. I don't know. The people they fall into tropes, because it kind of become that's a problem with an amazing first season. So where do you go?
Yeah.
Because it's like even Lost, you started to see the diminishing returns. Because every season was a block. Like first season was cool, second season was cool, third season was cool. By season 4, it's like okay, we're starting to gild the lily, and then by the end, you're like, I just want to kill myself. Here's my life back. And
Well, it's like I'm interested. Like I said, I'm interested in kind of all the side stories except for Dolores, which is kind of like the main story.
yeah. I get what you're saying with the Dolores stuff. It's like, oh, okay, you're great. You're Che Guevara of the fucking robots. Can we not retell that story 1,000 times?
Because like Bernard
Or
stuff,
maybe it'll change direction. You never know.
yeah. Well, Bernard stuff is interesting because he has this weird thing where he's like, his revelation is that like, oh, I'm a host too, and how he deals with that. But now he also has like these like physical abnormalities he has to deal with, which that's weird.
Yeah.
And then also he has to like hide amongst like everyone else just thinks he's a human being. Like so how he dodges that stuff's interesting. There's stuff with the I can't remember her name. She was the like the madam or the hooker or whatever who she's searching for her daughter.
Right.
Like the stuff with her, like it's always cool, and like the guy she hangs out with, he's just like weirdly devoted and stuff like that. And then also the writer guy's
storyteller, the Australian guy.
yeah, he's good. Like
Yeah.
I like that bunch of people. And then what other story is there? Then like with Ed Harris, his stuff's always interesting, but it's been very light this season. It's been like 3 scenes.
Yeah. There's not been a lot. Stuff he's in is good, but
Yeah, but there's just not necessarily enough of it. But yeah, it's just like you have to cut around all these stories, and then every time you get back to Dolores, it's just a bummer.
Oh, this bitch again. I did like that the guy from who was it? The evil guy from Breaking Bad was the guy who ran the village.
Oh yeah.
Where they all put the guns on themselves and shot themselves, and he's just standing there. All these people just committed suicide like simultaneously. He's trying to raise this army, and he was like, "God damn you!" I forget what the main, but Anthony Hopkins' character. You know, because there's still stuff built into the game to stop Ed Harris that Anthony Hopkins is doing from Beyond the Grave.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name. Dr. Ford. Oh, but yeah, that's oh yeah. So far, so good. We'll see. Like I said, I'm not enthusiastically like hanging on every moment, but it's still good. Hope they don't do a True Detective on me. Oh, True Detective. I just watched that again recently, the first season.
Oh, the first I was like, did you watch the second season?
I liked the main guy in the second season.
Which
the
main guy?
damaged cop, Ray Volcaro. The guy that the Irish actor played.
Irish.
What's that guy's name? The main guy in True Detective season 2.
Like the guy from Battleship and shit, and Ghost or
No, the
John
Irish,
Carpenter from Mars.
No, the Irish actor that played the main guy in the second season of True Detective.
I know Rachel McAdams and Vince Vaughn, and I don't. And
Oh, the guy who played.
then there's like shit, I can't remember his name. The guy who was in like 3 giant movie bombs. He was in that too, but I can't remember. Oh yeah, fucking
Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was good.
he was good. I mean, everyone was good in that. It just wasn't a good show. But no, I watched the first one over again.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, this is awesome. Where's this? Where's more of this?
I got season 3 coming around at some point.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna hold my breath, but maybe. Oh, he's watching Donnie Darko again. Can you hear it?
No.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can hear the song in here. I think he's listening to the commentary track now.
Oh, okay.
So we watched a movie.
Yeah. Had to complete some of the David Lynch movies I haven't seen.
Yes, we watched the 1977 Eraserhead, which had a 5-year production cycle, according to one of the extras I watched.
Oh, did you watch it? I didn't watch it. I read some of the IMDb trivia stuff, which is always spotty, but how were the extras? Because I think there was a lot, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was one that was like 2 hours long.
Jesus Christ.
Talking about different retrospects on them. We didn't get through all that.
Okay.
But I did. I got the high point. I mean, this was. I got the high points. Yeah, this movie was. How would I describe it? I mean, it's a David Lynch movie.
Oh yeah.
All the hallmark, everything he did in every movie since then. This is like, I can.
Well, I don't know.
All this stuff.
This is more despair than most of his stuff, because usually his stuff kind of edges around the idea of fighting against Americana as like this happy-go-lucky image, and then like you get to the darkness. Here it just kind of like starts at darkness and gets darker.
Well, it was shot in black and white, and it looks like it was shot in Eastern Europe. I know it wasn't, but it has that weird, because it had this great sound design to it.
Yeah.
There's always noise.
Yeah, it's like
feed plant noise or something.
Yeah, it's like the next gen. There's always a hum. There's always some weird mechanical hum or the heater or electrical thing.
Yeah, there's always something going on. When there's silence, it usually means something really fucked up's happening, which a lot of fucked up things happen in this movie.
And this made this probably made the new season of Twin Peaks make more or less sense. Like I guess more. I was able to extract more from this movie to the new season than I was any of his other things.
Oh, okay. Yeah, to me this seemed there's a lot more Twin Peaks in this, a lot less Wild at Heart, maybe.
Yeah, I still haven't seen Wild at Heart. I attempted to find a way to watch that, and there apparently is no way to watch that.
Yeah, I think they're trying to forget about that one.
Well, I don't think it's a bad movie. There's clips on YouTube, but I don't know. I mean, sure. Nick, I don't know. I just haven't. I've been. Well, no, it's like you can't stream it. It's like, okay, we've ran into that problem before, but there's also no way to buy it on DVD or Blu-ray unless you like buy some used copy that's like $100. But there is a new Blu-ray coming out like at the end of the month or something like that.
Okay.
So
Yeah, this movie's. Yeah, you're right. This seems to share a lot of DNA with Twin Peaks. The whole Twin Peaks. It even has some of the same visuals, like the tree with soil just planted next to his table. And,
well, the thing that blew my fucking mind, like about an hour ago, when I was reading up on like, okay, like who was in this movie? Like I recognized like one guy, who was like the one guy at the pencil maker machine. It's like,
Okay.
I know that guy. Like, yeah, he's like in a bunch of movies. He always plays like a dad or like an Air Force colonel. He was like Bill's dad in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or something.
oh, okay.
No, I think he's Ted's dad. Yeah. But then the main guy, I think his name's Jack Nance.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I've never seen this guy before. And then like, oh, he's fucking the dude from Twin Peaks is like, there's a fish in the percolator. Like the guy who runs the foreman
Yeah.
at the wood or sawmill.
Right.
I was like, oh, that fucking guy, Jesus. And then there was a photo of him with like weird curly red hair and Dune. I was like, oh, there he is again. Jesus Christ.
He was in Dune, Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart, Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me, Lost Highway. And then well, he died in the 90s. So yeah, he was he died in 96.
Huh.
Someone said he kept his hair that way
For
for
5
the
years.
years it took to make this movie. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's what I heard.
Yeah, there's one trivia that says there's one cut where it's like 2 years later where they had to cut from him like, from 2 years ago to now, and like there was like some visible age difference there somehow.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to describe the plot of the movie other than fear of fatherhood.
There seemed to be something. I mean, it's all David Lynch stuff. And the nice thing about David Lynch, I don't feel. And one of the reasons I like watching his movies, I don't feel burdened with explaining.
No,
Looking into, because he doesn't do that. It's like, well, fuck, this is just visually cool. I don't care what this means. But I know it does mean something to him. He just doesn't ever talk about it.
well, somebody.
But it seemed like the opening scene was that about sex? Because like the sperm came out of his mouth,
Yeah,
and then later in the film we find out he's impregnated his girlfriend,
yeah.
and then she gives birth to a guild navigator and or whatever, and it's like, oh, was the beginning of this movie a sex scene, or was it about sex, or what was
Probably.
it? Yeah.
Well, the one parallel I read about, and I actually don't know if this is true, is that when he had his daughter, she had like a club foot and stuff like that.
David Lynch?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't even know I had a daughter.
Well, at least that's what they said in their movie database. So.
Oh, I mean, I don't know much about the guy, to be
Yeah.
honest with
It's not like he talks about himself a whole lot.
you. Yeah.
Well, it's like I found that clip on YouTube about them yelling about the production of Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
I think I threw that on Facebook. Like I'd never seen him angry like that, and he was just like chain smoking. It's like, why can't we go to the firehouse? We could spend days experimenting in the firehouse. Why does it have to be done in 2 days? I don't understand.
Oh, was this when they're doing the new series?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I watched that. So that was real?
yeah.
I didn't know if he was just playing a part or something.
And he said fuck like really loud. Like it was like, I don't think I've heard him swear before, but yeah. So it's like, yeah, apparently I don't know David Lynch, and I'm not supposed to.
Secret David. Well, you can have coffee with him. There was a contest about that.
Is Jim Jarmusch directing
No,
Coffee and Cigarettes with David Lynch?
it was David Lynch and Kyle MacLachlan, because they're doing David Lynch's what was it, the meditation thing.
Oh, Transcendental Meditation.
Yeah, and if you donated to him, you could win a chance to have a cup of coffee with David Lynch. which would be cool.
Throw some cherry pie in.
I'd probably like to just listen to David Lynch talk for 20 minutes. I wouldn't have much to say, but I just listen to him talk.
What do you think about the kids these days, David?
Yeah, I don't know what he
The
thinks.
apple doesn't fall too far from the sinkhole. You know what I mean? Yes, David.
Absolutely, I know what you mean.
The fuck is he talking about, Kyle?
Just go with it.
It's funner if you don't think about it.
Just have fun with it.
Yeah, I don't know if I like this movie. It's extremely uncomfortable, but like, you know, I appreciated the movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of what would it? There's a lot of like horror in this movie.
It's like a David Cronenberg movie almost.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's uncomfortable to watch. The little creature baby is really uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable to watch people interact. It's gross.
Yeah.
It really makes you up because I'm watching this on a computer. It's got a big screen, but it's like I don't know if I want that close to me. It's like every time I see that thing, I think somebody farted. You know, they really did a good job of.
Yeah.
The idea was to make you uncomfortable seeing it. It worked. My hat's off to you. But
There's the lady in the radiator. That's
Yeah.
weird. She got those big puffy Chernobyl cheeks.
yeah, I never got that. But see that brought me back to like that whole subworld, like in Inland Empire with the rabbits.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's this secret little world you can peek in on. And, you know, she's singing a song which you'd recognize, but she looks strange. She's stepping on sperm that are just falling from the ceiling. She's crushing them. Yeah, there's just a lot of horrible stuff going on in this movie. But it was, I don't know if it wasn't unenjoyable. So it was just the whole time I found myself liking the little things in the movie more than I did the big things.
Oh yeah. There's
Just
that
'cause-
weird part where he kind of like decides he's going to cheat on his girlfriend, but she seems to be like constantly out of the picture anyways.
Mhm.
And then they're just like in bed together, but then the bed like turns into a hot tub for some unknown reason.
Yeah, they disappear. They like melt into lust under the water or something. And then her parents are these strange people. It's like the man-made chicken.
Yeah.
And the dad who's always smiling the whole time. It's like, could you cut this? I can't feel my arm anymore. I'm worried I'm going to cut it. And he talks too loud, you know, like a lot of David Lynch stuff.
Yeah.
It's people talking loud and saying things. And then he goes to cut the chicken and then blood shoots out of it and its legs are pumping. And like, what am I?
And the mom starts crying.
Yeah. Well, first she like acts like she's having an orgasm when the chicken's doing that, and then she runs into the other room screaming, and the dad's just smiling like she'll be all right. And then you have grandma in the kitchen who never says or does anything except smoke and stare. And so yeah, there's a lot of weird shit in this movie. It seemed to move apace though.
Yeah, it's only like 90 minutes, so.
Yeah, I wasn't like, okay, they're dragging this on a little too long. It seemed to jump around, but
Did he have a job?
who? You worked at a printing place,
Okay.
but that's kind of generic. They didn't say. They even named it, but they didn't really say what was going on or what he did there.
And apparently Stanley Kubrick and a lot of directors love this movie, but apparently he showed this to the cast to get ready for The Shining.
Oh, well, that would make sense. This movie's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well,
It's surreal and uncomfortable.
well, apparently it became very successful as a midnight movie, and that was kind of around that time where you had like Rocky Horror Picture Show, The Harder They Come. What are their big? It's like 5 other huge midnight movies. But yeah, this like played in the. I think it was like some list of like there's like a theater in San Francisco and like a theater in New York and a theater in LA that all played this every night for a year.
Those would be good times. That would be good times.
You know, and apparently because that notoriety, like Mel Brooks got him the job for directing Elephant Man.
Oh, okay.
So now, apparently George Lucas wanted him to direct one of the Star Wars movies too, but he declined.
He should have done that.
And apparently David Lynch thinks H.R. Giger ripped off stuff from him from this movie.
Okay, well, yeah, grisly horror slime stuff. Yeah, maybe.
I'm not sure. Well, I don't know. It's one of those trivia comments in IMDb which aren't necessarily like, no citation necessary.
Yeah, just this is what I think David Lynch would say.
But apparently that's why he didn't work with H.R. Giger on Dune, because he thought Giger had ripped him off.
No, okay.
Or maybe I don't know. I haven't looked at David Lynch's art. Maybe he thought Giger was ripping off his art he made, because he has paintings and shit too. But I don't think I've ever seen David Lynch's paintings.
Buy one of those. Look it up because that's good podcasting.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, or maybe it's just this transfer is really good, but yeah, it doesn't look like a movie necessarily from 1977, other than it looks dirty.
Yeah, like I said, this reminds me of like a European. This looks like something they do in like the Eastern Europe under the communist banner. That's the vibe I get from it. It was because it's shot in black and white.
Yeah.
And it's just a depressing industrial setting, just with people living next to factories and bricked in windows and all that stuff.
Yeah. Like it just seems like everything's sickly.
Yeah.
And cancerous.
It's like no wonder you're having wizard babies and shit living right next to the lead factory or whatever.
Yeah.
It does seem very Chernobyl. So yeah, and really, this is essentially an early '70s movie. So
yeah, it started in '72.
Started before I was born, so yeah, it holds up pretty well.
I don't know, and there's a lot of movies that were experimental in the '70s, but probably nothing quite like this.
This is experimental, but weirdly, it does have a story.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. It's like
it's not a bunch of interconnected scenes. But.
Yeah, there's a story that goes like from beginning to end, but then we take these side roads where it's like, oh, we got a lady singing "Everything's Perfect in Heaven," and then now we got weird. Like I said, she gave birth to a guild navigator. We have a lot of stuff like that. But yeah, it doesn't. It's not so surreal that you're completely disconnected from reality.
But you can make the connections between reality and whatever this world is.
Yeah, you can see. Like the kid going around gathering heads and stuff. Like that happens.
Oh yeah.
He just comes running out of the alley. Head, grab that head.
And then he gives it to that guy, and he hands it to the pencil machine guy, and then he makes a pencil. And he's like, "It's good," and then the scene's over.
Yep. Like, oh, what are we building up to? Some weird mechanical? Oh, nope. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, how's the rest of this movie gonna work? Is this really gonna explain what Eraserhead, the title, means? Like, nope.
Nope.
It's like, is his head gonna be used as erasers for these eraser heads?
Nope. Nice thing about David Lynch, no pressure. Just you're never gonna figure it out, and he's not gonna tell you.
I'm just gonna get mad that the lady next door is fucking somebody else. So I'm gonna cut the bandages open and stab my baby.
Well, I'm gonna cut the bandages open, and just my baby's just a bunch of guts with a weird head on it. And then, you know, it swings around and
Turns into
weird.
oatmeal.
Giant. Yeah.
It spews out like a basketball court full of oatmeal.
That was a lot of weird stuff.
But don't worry, the radiator lady saves him.
Yep. Thank God.
Or doesn't. And then there's that guy just like manufacturing sparks with sores all over his face.
Yeah, it looks like a good job.
It's like, which Nine Inch Nails video is this?
Oh, yeah. This was all work. Yeah, this is, like I said, you can tell every movie after this. Like, yep, this is, I can see it. There's like people singing. He always liked music.
Yeah. Especially that performance is like, oh yeah, this is the start of David Lynch making music videos.
Yeah. Greatest music video director ever. Yeah, that's it, folks. Eraserhead. Check it out. It's everywhere.
Show it to lots of people.
Yeah. Just come over. Have a party.
You'll either feel more or less uncomfortable with more people.
I don't know if I could watch this with a room full of people.
Yeah. Well, because this is a huge midnight movie, so I like wonder like, you know, a lot of midnight movies kind of have like crowd interactions. Like, I wonder what crowds do to this movie.
Yeah, it's like it's like you cut open the baby. Everyone finger your partner. What are we doing at this movie? It's a very very strange film. Unsurprisingly.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah, I remember I told you, like, yeah, let's do this movie. I haven't watched it, and you go, yeah, well, it's a weird movie, and I go, oh no shit. Huh?
Just strange, just odd. Characterizations are great though. What, do we have anything else for Eraserhead?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we covered it. I mean, it's just it's the thing about some of these David Lynch movies we watch is, you know, you want to say more, but it's like, you just got to have the experience.
Yeah, it's not like if we went into specifics, we'd kind of like be robbing it of like any kind of. It's really what you. I mean, we can describe every scene, but it'll mean nothing to you until you see it.
Yeah, so you got to watch it and love it.
It's not like there's like great dialogue or. Like you said, a lot of it's just kind of the sound design and low hum and just a general feeling and just strange.
Well, my thing with David Lynch is it's great dialogue for the scene. It's like if you just read it on the piece of paper, it's like, how is that interesting? But then you see the scene, it's like, oh yeah, the wall is a weird mauve red that looks like menstrual fluid, and this one girl's screaming, and this two guys are having a great conversation. It's like that's what makes the dialogue great, not the dialogue itself, but just the weird things that are going on and the way it looks. There's a lot of that in Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire, just people talking normally and just insane shit going on. It's like, this is why I love David Lynch.
But it's like more sincere. It's not like a like Airplane where like weird shit's going on in the background. Like it's not just that.
No, it's not done for comedies.
Intentionally.
Not intentionally.
Or that's the line he weaves.
Yeah.
Is this comedy? Is this serious?
What does life mean?
And the answer is yes.
And don't watch movies on your iPhone. Don't watch David Lynch movies on your iPhone. I get very angry. But he has a right to be. Those movies would be terrible. Actually, all movies are terrible on an iPhone. TV series aren't too bad.
It's a new generation, so.
Yeah, I guess.
Some people like don't have TVs anymore. They just have their phones. So.
Well, I guess if you're going to get it any way you can.
Yeah.
If that's the only way left to you, I guess do that. But really, you can buy a fucking huge TV for like $200 nowadays. So. Well, some people can't afford cable either. I forget about that.
It's weird. Well,
All
yeah, I don't know. Like nowadays, I don't think people like intend to like, hey, I want to watch this thing on my phone. I think they're just like, I want to experience more things, and right now all I have is a phone.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they go back somewhere where there is a TV and also watch more media.
Yeah, that's true. So I watch a lot more stuff on my computer, but it's why I got a computer with like a 30-inch screen too. Because
Yeah.
if my computer screen was like this, I wouldn't watch anything on it except hardcore pornography. Because that's
Well-
always best watched through a small viewing port.
Well, I see like people in the break room, like they'll gather together and like they'll show YouTube videos to each other on their phones,
Yeah.
and it's like we kind of do that here, but we just do it at the, at the, like I wouldn't think to like, hey, check this. Like I'd like, no, let's go find a computer, and then like, hey, check this video out. Like, no, I'll shove my phone in your face, and it's awkward lighting and shit like. But yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But we're
Could do that. So they ever huddle around? Are they ever watching our live YouTube feed on their phones?
No,
Huddled around the break room?
no,
You mean the guys at work don't want to hear about our take on David Lynch films?
no. I don't tell people work about my podcast. So.
I don't either because I don't want to lose my job. But, and I wouldn't be losing my job for making a inferior product. It would be losing my job because I might have offended somebody, whether I meant to or not. Or not, I don't know. I don't think anyone cares anymore. People get on Facebook and talk about the noble Ku Klux Klan, and you find out they're like high school teachers or something. So it's like, wow. Or who was the lady? What was the lady doing? She had a real racist
She hosted
podcast,
some white supremacist podcast,
and she was like a middle school teacher.
yeah. And they found that out and fired her ass.
Yeah, and some people were upset. It's like, it's freedom of speech. It's like, well, okay, she wasn't doing like nude art and expressing herself that way. She, spouting hate speech for the
Let's
sake
get
of
those. Let's get those two. The guy, like the free speech guys, and then like the teachers that molest their students, but because it's they're molesting male student, it's awesome because because if I were 13, it would be awesome to get a hand job from your teacher, but no, that's rape.
You remember the South Park had a whole episode of that where the kid was going, and it was his baby brother, the football headed kid. What's his name?
Ike.
Yeah, so it was like a little baby essentially, and the teacher was in love with him. And Kyle went to the cops like, my teacher's molesting my younger brother. And they're like, what? That's horrible. Or no, I forget how he said it, but they thought it was a girl. And then they found out it was like an older teacher and a young kid. And they're all like, nice. Something like that. It's like, yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. Everyone's okay with that. I think it's because it doesn't screw up a male's psychology, though. But I think if girls,
Well, it probably would. Just you're just more protective of girls.
women, yeah. I don't see that having a negative impact. I mean, I wouldn't encourage the behavior.
Well,
but-
yeah, it's probably not going to lead to like great relationships for the rest of their lives.
yeah, like good wholesome understandings and stuff.
Because that's usually if it's that happens to a woman, it's like, oh, that's how you create a porn star.
Yeah, Star is Born. What Joe Rogan had a line about that? It's like, don't be weird with your kids about sex, like hide them from it, but don't be too vulgar because that's how strippers are made. Or he had some line like that. It was funny. Well, anyway, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Colin. Goodbye, America.